What do all teenagers really benefit from more than anything else? Real, honest to God, meaningful, life and death level responsibility. And when they experience that responsibility, particularly when they're doing it joined together with the efforts of older people, when older people are depending on them, that's the recipe for maturity.
Welcome to the Homeschool Show from North Carolinians for Home Education. I'm Amanda Wares, your host, and here with me is our favorite co-host, Melanie Willis. How you doing, Melanie?
I'm doing good today. So I have a question for you. In your homeschool journey, did you teach your kids how to write in cursive?
Well, that is a little bit of a complicated question. You'd think it wouldn't be.
Okay.
So yes and no is how I'll answer that. Did I do a lot of cursive language instruction with my kids? No, I did not. But they all do hopefully know how to sign their name.
On the name.
I hope so. I've been really slack about that. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, we have done cursive writing, but I still think that I wish I had done more. I think it's really hard for me to remember when I give them assignments to say, I need you to write this in cursive.
Yes.
I think I'm doing a little bit better with my niece and nephew right now, and they're really doing so good in it. So I'm glad that I did, and we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Okay. Super fun. All right. Well, what else do we have for today?
So today, Matthew sat down and spoke with Andrew Pudewa, who was one of our featured speakers at Thrive. I got to say, one of my favorite featured speakers. I just always enjoy him.
Me too.
So we're going to listen to that. And then I'm going to have another segment in our real world readiness series. And then, of course, we'll hear some news. And I think there's going to be some new exciting things today.
Awesome. So great. So exciting. I love that, we're getting closer and closer to Thrive, to springtime and, kind of those milestones in our school year, which, your school year probably is all year long, but those are just some milestones that get me excited. Kind of gets me through the of the winter, that part of the winter where I just feel like, oh, this is terrible.
Longer days.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So yes, you are right, Melanie. Andrew Pudewa is, I will say, at least one of, if not the favorite, my personal favorite of homeschool speakers. I just love him. He is so wonderful. He has a lot of wisdom to share, so much knowledge, and he's just generally a great guy. He's so much fun. So I'm excited.
You used the right word. You said wisdom because I was just thinking he just, there's his area, but he knows everything and he just has such incredible advice for anything that you could put out in front of him.
It's true.
I think he's fantastic.
Absolutely wonderful. I'm excited. Well, let's check out that video.
Hey, Andrew, thanks for joining us on the show. It's great to see you again.
A pleasure, as always, Matthew.
So, catch me up on how things are going. How is the grandparenting business going?
Oh, gosh, it is, without question, the best thing about being a human being. Of all the things that I have ever done, adventures I've had, successes, failures, loves, nothing comes close to the grandkid thing for me. So I highly recommend it. All you young people out there, plan ahead so that you've got at least some of those grandkids living close by. We had the big snowpocalypse, and so we were basically snowed in for a few days, and all I did was read awesome books to grandchildren 4, 5, 6 hours a day.
Wow. I was going to ask you for a highlight, what you enjoy. So maybe that's one right there, reading to them.
Oh, yes. And in a way, it's like revisiting having read, these good and great books to my own kids, and now I get to do it again. And the stories are even richer. and the questions they ask are so good. And I just can't think of anything better to do when you're snowed in than to drink some hot chocolate and read good books to grandchildren.
Yeah, that's so great. So, how about IEW? What's going on there? Are things rolling along as usual, or need any changes?
Well, we keep growing, and so that's kind of irritating because I keep having to hire more people and get more space and buy more equipment. But all my problems are good ones. I'll tell you, there's really, I think, a strong reaction right now against the tech in schools problem. And so many schools are pushing so much ed tech and AI and kids at screens all day and the paperless classroom. And, even arguments like kids don't really need to learn math because they've got, machines that will do all their thinking for them. We just need to teach them how to use AI well. And these fallacies are kind of blatantly obvious to any parents that have a modicum of common sense left. And so alternative education opportunities, whether it's straight homeschooling or hybrid schools or pod schools or micro schools or classical charter school, it's just exploding.
Mm.
And so, in a way, that makes me happy. And I hope that it would happen even faster so that we can rescue more and more kids. And then maybe some of the schools will look at their shrinking enrollment and say, maybe we should reconsider this Chromebook for every second grader strategy we've been using for 5 years and failing miserably. So
Hmm.
we'll see. It's interesting times.
Well, and of course, my very next question was about AI. I was going to say, Andrew, are you using AI? Which is a very different question than, wow, what do we do with the kids and educational philosophies and strategies? That's different than I think you and I necessarily using it and understanding it. So, anyway, tell me your thoughts.
Well, I think I fall into a typical category in terms of the general age AI related usages. And I don't remember where this came from. I feel like it was Sam Altman, but he said that older people, that would be me, mostly use AI as a search engine and a research tool. And that's all I really have any interest in doing. But I get frustrated because I'm old enough and have enough general knowledge to notice that sometimes it's giving me wrong information, which is a good thing for me to be able to notice. And I feel a little sad or wary for younger people who maybe don't have as much general knowledge and they're getting information and just believing it without having any discernment.
Yeah.
But that's how I use AI, and I try to resist the temptation. But sometimes, yeah, it's a tool. It's a pretty fancy search engine. It gets information. I personally like Perplexity because it gives you the source of all the stuff it's
Mhm.
telling you. So then you can go and look and see, where did that come from? Then it said that the millennials, that zone, right? The ones who had a decent, for the most part, a decent education, they grew up tech natives, they are most likely to use AI as an operating system to some sort. So automate tasks for me, plan my vacation, do these spreadsheet things.
Yeah.
They can figure out a way to teach it to do that and save themselves time. What they're doing with their extra time, I don't know, but I haven't got to that point where it's automating much of anything for me. In fact, I actually like planning my own travel. I don't really want uh,
Yeah.
an artificial intel. I don't really want anyone else to do it for me. But so I'm not in that zone. But the thing that worries me is he said that when you look at the Gen Zs and the alphas, mostly they are using it as a companion. And so they're
Mm.
using these chatbots to
Yeah.
replace human experience and ask life advice questions. And to me, that gets into an extremely dangerous zone. and I don't know what to do about it. I don't want any advice from AI on how to do anything. I'd rather get some RI advice. I'd rather get some SI advice, real intelligence, spiritual intelligence.
There you
But I
go.
do fear that a lot of the 20 somethings are expecting that they're going to get their important questions answered in this way.
Mhm.
So that's kind of my observation.
Yeah, it's interesting that one of the basic principles of research and critical thinking isn't new now, right? I mean, in other words, we've always had to tell ourselves and to tell others, don't believe what you hear. you know,
Yeah.
find the source, uh, exercise critical thinking on these ideas and test them against X, Y, and Z. So, uh, in one sense, it's the same basic concern, one of them anyway, that you're mentioning. Hopefully, but yeah, it's a very interesting situation when now kids are growing up right into it and probably have more confidence than they should. I have I've discovered it to be a very powerful and new tool for research and for work. I have got into using it in a lot of ways to accomplish my work more efficiently and more excellently. But it's one of those things that you have to know how to use well because man, it sure does get it wrong. So it's like you said, it's a very interesting situation we're in.
And I was thinking about the tool of summarizing. Someone actually sent me an AI summary of a 2-hour talk that I gave once.
Hmm.
And I've been thinking about that idea of summarize because we teach that in writing, right? When we're teaching writing to kids, we'll give them too much information and say, "Here, summarize that."
Mhm.
In other words, tell me some of it, but not all of it. You can't
Yeah.
allerize, you summarize. And there is an activity that happens when you are doing that for yourself. You're reading, you're judging, you're
Yeah.
listening to the logical flow, you're choosing those things that are interesting, important, or relevant to you based on your experience or your purposes. And when you have AI bypass that and just do the summarizing for you, you're losing out on part of the cognitive benefit of actually reading something
Right.
and thinking about it.
Yeah.
And I feel that too much now we're going to have AIs summarizing information, sending it off, and AI will read it and respond to it. Another AI will read it and respond to it. Kind of like what's happening on college and university discussion boards right now. Is
Hmm.
the teacher will post a question and then a bunch of people will put these very well written, very well thought out, brilliant answers almost instantly, and then someone else will respond to that almost, and you're reading this thing. I would love to get these kids in a room and
Yeah.
make them write on paper and
Right.
see if they could produce anything even close to what they're posting on the discussion board for the
Yeah.
class. But it'd be a good
Exactly.
experiment sometime.
And I think from an educational standpoint, that's the greatest um, risk or danger, which is if the kids allow this to replace their reading and thinking skills, their research skills, which they have to develop. And so sometimes I joke with my kids, you can use AI when you're 52 and have several graduate degrees because
Yes.
then you know how you've already learned how to do those things and now you know how to use a tool maybe, but it's not a replacement for learning how to do those things.
Yes. Well, what we find throughout all of history is that technology will atrophy the skill which it replaces, right?
Mm,
So you give kids a calculator, they will stop believing that knowing multiplication facts is of value. You give them a spell checker, they will stop believing there's any reason to know how to spell words. It's not a new problem. You go all the way back to Plato in the Phaedrus, and he tells the the myth of the king of Egypt and the god Thoth. And the god Thoth or Thoth, or however you want to pronounce it, said he would give all these gifts of technology, among them writing, which is a technology. And the king of Egypt said, well, okay, we'll have to take your gift, but it will have the negative effect of causing men to rely on the written word and not exercise their memory. And so, even writing in a way allows us to not remember a lot of stuff. So our
Yeah,
faculty of memory is somewhat atrophied. Um,
that's true.
but I'm kind of in the phase of saying, how can we slow down the atrophy of our faculties and retain more of our humanity, even with the onslaught of this rapid expansion of technological capability?
Hmm. Well, that is the question, I think. Well stated. So, hey, we are really looking forward to having you at Thrive again this year. I was looking at your workshop list. It looks very exciting, and hopefully, you have that in front of you also. Is there any of those that are you're especially looking forward to talking about?
Well, you've picked the best of the best.
Great.
So every one of those I get really excited about. The cultivating language arts preschool through high school is, I think, the best kind of synopsis of everything I've learned in 1 hour
Mm,
about how to help children learn to listen and speak and read and write and think better, and how those are just so integrated. We tend to, I think modern schooling has done this to all of us, but in a way it's divided us into subjects, and there's some disintegration going on there. But when we look at integrating all of those skills and seeing how really just life at home with parents is the best foundation for doing those things well, and then how to maximize that at all the different age levels. So I love that talk. And then hacking high school is really just the extension off that one, because I put cultivating language arts preschool through high school. I spend about 90% of the time on preschool through middle school, and then just quickly show, okay, here's some stuff in high school. So I'm so happy that I get to have another hour to really look at what are the ways that we can maximize those high school years.
mm.
And I think a lot of parents, they have a nervousness about high school. Oh no, if we don't do high school right, then everything will fall apart. I will fail my kids. They'll never get into college. They'll never get a job, et cetera, et cetera. When really all the things that actually matter are things that you do instead of what most high schools do.
Mhm.
Helping people see you don't have to do high school at home the way they do in schools to maximize the age. And part of that is things like dual enrollment and higher ed opportunities and internships and starting a business and all the things that kids are more likely to remember once they're grown up.
Can we go back and settle in to a little bit of talk about high school? I have a couple of high schoolers, so this would benefit me. I would love to talk about some of what you were saying, how to really maximize these years of high school, but mainly from an educational standpoint. I mean, of course, we can talk spiritually too, but from an educational standpoint, what are some of those things that you would mention?
Well, since I'm on this theme of integrating the language arts, the arts of language, listening, speaking, reading, and writing, one of the things that does that powerfully is speech and debate. And you can do this in a really formal, structured, more intensive way by joining a debate club and going to debate tournaments. Or you can try to incorporate that type of thing into your environment, whether it's doing some formal debate, with the family on Friday evenings at home, or in a co-op or a setting where you've got peers. But there's something about that I see speech and debate does. It really requires the kids to learn how to do research, for one. So they have to read hard stuff and summarize and sort and organize and have those ideas ready. Then they have to be able to speak those ideas in an effective way at the right time in a polite and articulate way that's not the typical way that children argue. So it elevates their capacity for not just arguing, but also listening to your opponent and then responding to the arguments rather than just restating whatever you think or want about something, which seems to be what the world is pretty much just doing. So there's that listening and speaking element. If you get into competitive public speaking, you're writing a speech, a platform speech, like a persuasive or expository, and you're really having to craft, hone, refine, and get that thing as good as you can, and then memorize it. So you're building memory function. And then when you're in competition, you're polishing it up with all of the nuances that make delivery effective. I don't know one thing that does that quite so effectively as competitive public speaking and or debate. Closely related to that is drama. And, most children are kind of attracted to the idea of drama. If they get doing it when they're a little younger, then they get over, I think, more easily the stage fright problem. I mean, it's easier to get a 10-year-old up on a stage than it is to get a 16-year-old up on the stage for the first time. But there's something about drama that requires, first of all, memorizing lines, memorizing, blocking and gestures and expressions, and being able to do that exact right thing at the exact right time in relation with other people. I like drama as an art form because it also has no artifact. I mean, you can make a video of it, but if you're making a painting or a sculpture, the thing is there. You work really hard and you do half a dozen performances and now it's all over and it's poof, it's gone. And there's a certain beauty to the value of having put so much effort into something that was there and now it isn't. And that's okay. And so I think that it's very, very good experience for most kids. I would say that one of the dangers of speech and debate and drama is the pride sense a little bit, like, hey, I'm good and I'm on stage and people are clapping for me. And so that's also an opportunity then to do that for the glory of God and to try and exercise humility and remember, with Christ, all things are possible. And without God, nothing good is possible. So let's, give gratitude and thanks where gratitude and thanks are due. I think that's a cultural thing. And I think the homeschool leagues, NCFCA and STOA, work very hard to instill that. Another idea I love to talk about is the benefits of a home business. And my kids had the benefit of growing up working in my business. And I've always been self-employed. So that's a slight advantage. But even if you have a day job, it doesn't mean that you couldn't get together with your teenagers and start a little business on the side. And the things you learn in doing that, how to listen to people, how to read carefully, how to speak carefully, how to write and craft and how to put yourself into the world and be successful doing that, those are lessons. You could start a business and fail miserably and probably learn more from the cost of doing that than you ever would from buying classes in business. So there's real life experience. And what I've noticed, you probably noticed this too, Matthew, what do all teenagers really benefit from more than anything else? Real, honest to God, meaningful, life and death level responsibility. And when they experience that responsibility, particularly when they're doing it joined together with the efforts of older people.
Hmm.
When older people are depending on them, that's the recipe for maturity. That's the recipe for growing up. That's the recipe for becoming an adult. And tragically, it appears that the modern world has almost prevented that from happening because kids have to go to school and they have all these other things, and then they get into, gaming or sports or whatever. Not that those don't have their own benefits, but all their time is eaten up.
Mm-hmm.
And so they don't really have that opportunity to work side by side in a meaningful way, whether it's a business, an internship, a political campaign, you know, a evangelism project, a community service project, and they need to do it with other adults. And so that's I would say, the theme of most of what I would talk about in that subject of hacking high school.
Yeah. Well, as of Monday, my daughter, my senior, Catherine, and I are headed to Black Mountain to the National Open for NCFCA. And we are looking forward to participating. And Catherine has been hard at work doing all the things that you are talking about. Interestingly, one of her platform speeches is on the topic of comparison. And she's talking about the dangers of comparison. But through it, she also had to realize some of the usefulnesses of comparison and how generally she was arguing about how terrible comparison was. And yet her judges were about to rank her compared to the other people in the room.
A beautiful irony there.
So she had to really think through, okay. But like you touched on, there's a pride element there that really our attitude and our objectives are important for how we handle those situations. But I thought that was an interesting touch point to what you had just said, and we're looking forward to participating in that for sure. Well, thank you, Andrew. This has been fantastic. We've covered a lot of I think very helpful stuff, and I really appreciate your time. Once again, want to invite our listeners to join us at Thrive coming up at the end of May. You'll be able to hear Andrew Pudewa, who will be one of our keynote speakers as well, and he'll have several workshops. So come join us and enjoy the fellowship. One last thing, Andrew, is tell parents why they should come to an in-person conference.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I don't know anyone, and I've been doing this 30 years. I don't know anyone who ever said, I went to that homeschool conference and I sure wish I hadn't. It's almost always the opposite. I wasn't sure I wanted to go. It's expensive, it takes time, but I'm so glad I did. And that's what you usually hear. So it's always a good experience. But more than that, we live in a world of continuous distraction. In fact, I don't know that I ever do anything and don't have the possibility of being continuously distracted, usually by a screen. And I listen to things all day long, but what am I doing? I'm doing this, I'm doing that, hearing a little bit, and then I have to think about something else, and then I come back. But at a conference, you can just leave your phone in the bag and you can sit and you can contemplate and you can listen fully. And I think in our life today, all of us need more opportunities to just put the distractions aside and be calm, not be visually hyperstimulated, and just listen to a person from whom we can learn something and maybe disagree with on parts, and have an internal dialogue and take some notes and actually go back to kind of a low tech way of learning to think better about various things that are important to us. And so I think that's one of the biggest benefits. And then you meet new friends and meet old friends, and bring your kids, and you realize, we're not alone out here. It's a much bigger, better world than we even imagined.
That's right. All right. Thanks again, Andrew, for joining us today, and we will see you soon.
Okay, see you soon, Matthew, and have fun at that debate tournament. God bless you.
Thanks.
All right. So you do not want to miss him at Thrive. So if you just saw this and maybe you've never heard of Andrew Pudewa, and now you know how great he is. So go ahead and register for Thrive. As this episode is going to be aired, we're still in early bird, so you're still getting the best discount that's available. We want you to come. And now you know just one of the amazing featured speakers that are going to be there.
That's right. And I always say it, I cannot say it enough. Go on the website. You can actually look at the little descriptions of all of these talks, and that way you can make some decisions ahead of time. Super important.
It is, absolutely. All right, well, let's check out our news.
Well, hi there. It's Melanie Willis with your homeschool news. First off, I want to let you know that this Thursday, February 26th, is the last day to be able to get that early bird registration for the Thrive Homeschool Conference. This is the best price that you will get all year long. You can still register after that, but the price will go up, and you do not want to miss the conference. It's going to be amazing this year. So many great speakers that are so knowledgeable, but not only that, they just are inspirational, and they're going to be able to equip you so that you feel confident in homeschooling your children with confidence and joy. And there's so many other things happening too. The vendor hall that has all this great curriculum that you can put your hands on, and all kinds of just wonderful things to buy for your homeschool family. And then there's the teen activities. There'll be the dance and the game night. And this year there's also the trades fair and the college fair. Nobody wants to miss out on any of that. It's always so much fun. There will be mentors all around the hall that you can ask questions to, and just lots of great things happening all weekend long, and you don't want to miss out. So again, to get that early bird pricing, you want to do that. You want to register by this Thursday, and you can do that at nche.com. Next, what is better than a day at the baseball park? How about a day at the baseball park and educational opportunities? So on April 28th, the Durham Bulls will be hosting their annual Education Day with the Durham Bulls. They'll be there playing the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. And all around the concourse will be all kinds of wonderful educational activities and things to do. They will have lesson plans that they can give out to you, and just wonderful learning experiences. So you can go on to nche.com/activities and look at registering for that. Registration is currently opening, but that will be closing out on Thursday, April the 2nd. So you can go out there now and get those tickets and have a wonderful day out in the great weather, watching baseball and learning at the same time. Sounds like a great day to me. So until next time, this is Melanie Willis. Have a great day.
All right. We're headed into spring. I'm so ready. And we got some new field trips coming. That's just exciting.
Very. Hopefully it's going to be warm weather for these things.
I can't wait. So awesome. All right. As always, guys, if you would help us out by liking, subscribing, sharing with your friends, we would love to hear from you as well. As we already mentioned earlier in the show today, you can always reach us, leave a comment below, or shoot us an email if you have, a response to one of our questions, or you have something you want to see on the show, or maybe just an idea for us. That would be great. You can always reach us at thehomeschoolshow@nche.com, and you can check out the show notes for links to everything. Again, we always try to answer every comment, every email that we get. So as always, guys, keep homeschooling with confidence and joy. Until next time, bye-bye.